Hey, I'm here with another quick video. So we're about to graph functions. Yes, we are going to physically be graphing. No, they're not going to have to be exact, but they do need to be accurate. So you're going to make your own graph. So it might not look like mine, but I'm just going to give you some suggestions. So we are familiar with this format that we were given here. This format is vertex form. Right? So we're graphing these equations in vertex form. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Okay, that's our vertex form. So our equation is written in this form. We're asked to graph it and identify and label key features: the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and the y-intercept. So of course we could go straight to our calculators or our computers, and I'll show you how you can do that soon. And graph this function and get a line and sketch it, right? That is what we can do. We also want to be able to find these key features without actually using our graph in order to plot them onto our coordinate plane. So that is what we're going to do first, okay? So I need to identify the vertex. Well, I have my equation, and I'm going to write it again because y'all know how I am. I hope you can see this. Cool. And I can automatically, because this is in vertex form, I can identify the vertex. The vertex is our h, right? And our k. So here we have +3 and we have -1 or -1. Okay, because our h comes from being subtracted, we know that this positive number came because of switching the variables. Excuse me, switching the signs. So that means that my vertex is going to be -3, comma, -1. Okay, and that is going to be my vertex value. So we're going to apply that somewhere on our graph eventually, knowing that this is our vertex. Okay, we already identified one point without actually having to graph it just yet. Now the axis of symmetry, okay? So if we think back to the axis of symmetry, okay, I'm going to draw a small graph here. Okay, we had a parabola. Our axis of symmetry is what splits our graph down the middle evenly, right? Symmetrical, meaning the points on one side are the same distance away as the points on the other side. So that axis of symmetry also goes straight down the middle, okay? And that middle point that it crosses is called our vertex point, okay? If we went back to our vocabulary. So our vertex already actually tells us our axis of symmetry, okay? So our axis of symmetry is essentially our h value in our vertex. This is from the vertex because it goes straight through the vertex. So our x value in this sense for our axis of symmetry is -3. So we are going to draw an imaginary dashed line through the x value -3 because that is going to be where our graph splits evenly, okay? Then we have our y-intercept. Y-intercept. Well, my y-intercept is where my line crosses the y-axis on the graph, okay? Wherever it crosses the y-axis, that means that on this y-axis, my x value is 0. So my x value is 0, and whenever my x value is 0, that is when I'll get a y-intercept, if there is one that crosses the graph. So we also can find out our y-intercept before we graph it because we have our equation, because we know that x has to be equal to 0, and we can simply just use substitution. So we're going to write our equation out again. And if this is going too fast for you, please pause, rewind, until you understand, or reach out and ask questions. All right, so our y-intercept, okay? Our y-intercept is when our y value is 0. I'm sorry, our x value is 0. And what is the corresponding y value? Let me see what I'm going to use. Just a green. Okay, what is that y value? So that means when we see x in our equation, we are now going to substitute it with the value of 0, and we're going to solve for y. So I'm going to bring y down. There's my 2. But instead of x, I'm going to put 0 plus 3 and square it minus 1. So now I have y equals That 2's still there, but now I deal with my parentheses. 0 plus 3, which is 3, squared minus 1. And we keep on solving. Okay, I can put all this in my calculator here, or I can do the math. 3 squared is 9, times 2 is 18, minus 1 is 17. All right, there we are. So y equals 17, which means my y-intercept is actually 0, 17. Wow. So we've already found 3 different values we can graph on our coordinate plane today without actually having to go and look at our table. Now, I am going to show us how we can get that table and grab those points as well in order to label them if you wanted to work backwards, okay? But we're looking for this work today. So how am I going to label this axis? This is going to be up to you. You can count by 1s, 2s, 3s, 10s, 18s, whatever numbers that you would like. You can skip numbers and just write the values however you want to graph, as long as it is accurate. It does not have to be exact, okay? So for me, I know that my vertex is at -3, -1. So I know I at least need to go out about 5 notches. Right? Okay? So then I know that my vertex is, I think I forgot something. I did forget something, right? We need to know if our parabola opens up or opens down. And there's something that reminds us of that. And that is this handy dandy A value right there. That A value in our vertex form tells us a lot. So that A value is 2. Okay, now if we go back to our notes, you should have them next to you. A equals 2. Okay, our A value is greater than 1, and it's also positive. So we know that because it's greater than 1 and that it's positive, it is going to open up. And it might just be a little bit narrow, but it's going to open up. Opens up. That's very important for us because when we plot these points, we want to make sure that we connect the correct points the correct direction. So -3, -1. So I'm going to come over here. This is my -3. It's approximately my -1. Plot a point. Or you can literally just label this as -3. Label this as -1 and plot your points. Great with me. Then we have our axis of symmetry. X equals -3. So I know there's going to be an imaginary line that comes down -3 through the vertex. Okay? And what you also want to do, and we'll do in a second, is label the points. Then I have my y-intercept is 0, 17. Now, I am not about to go up 17 notches. Okay? Again, it has to be accurate but not exact. So I'm just going to put 17 up here somewhere. And then I'm going to mark that as my y-intercept. Okay? Y-intercept is on the y-axis, crossing when my x value is 0, okay? Now, we need a parabola, right? A parabola has at least 3 points to where we can make a U shape. Right now, we only have half of the U shape. But that axis of symmetry tells us something. This parabola has to be symmetrical. So that means the amount of units from my axis of symmetry and my vertex to my first point is the same amount of units the opposite direction of my axis of symmetry and vertex for another point. So if my y-intercept is at 0, 17 and my vertex is at -3, that means that they are 3 units away from each other. Okay, of course not exactly, and I can make that 3, 1, 2, 3. So that means 3 units the opposite way, 1, 2, 3, which is possibly -6 for me. I can go up to 17 and plot a point there and call that -6, 17. And now I have a U-shaped graph, and I can plot it like so. Now, as we can see, that is not a U. That looks more like a V. So I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Kind of just curve that up there. Okay. A little bit better, y'all. Again, not have to be exact, just accurate. So now that is my U-shaped parabola. So then we can just go back and we're just going to label these points. This is my vertex. This is my y-intercept. That is a point. This is my axis of symmetry, and I'm gonna put AOS. Can y'all see that, AOS? Now, some are saying like, well, Ms. Meekins, we didn't do the x-intercepts. Right. You can definitely go ahead and solve this for using quadratic formula or complete the square and get those x values to add extra points to your graph. I'm not necessarily asking for those at this point, as long as you can acknowledge that this graph is to cross the x-axis twice, once, or no times at all. So yeah. All right, that is how we graph a quadratic function. Looks pretty simple, pretty easy. Again, if you have any questions, pause, rewind, start the video over. Make sure you're going through the problem with the video. You're actually writing it down. If you have any questions, reach out. Y'all, look, cameras are not my friend.